Saturday has vibes like 2021 Indiana. Weirdly, Michigan's kind of in the same position. Kind of hard to get up for this one, but we're going to preview it. That's what we're going to do. Right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you for making us your first listen, and thank you for being an everydayer if you are one. Thank you to all of our everydayers, I should say. No Jack Tuttle today. We could not get the schedules worked out, aligned, all of that stuff. Today just couldn't make it happen, so he will return next week valiantly, like a champion. Today, we're just going to get into this Purdue game. Overarching season thoughts, kind of taking everything we talked about this week and combining it into one thought. Then game itself in segment 2, prediction, and all of that in segment 3. That is the plan for today. I don't know about you guys. It's like there are some games where you're like, you can barely sleep. You can barely contain your excitement. You're looking forward to them all week. And especially like with a team like Michigan right now, that's 6-2. This isn't like a 2007 where it's like, yeah, they're 6-2 right now, but they've got a really tough matchup against Wisconsin in Madison the week before the game. And then they've got the game, all that kind of stuff, right? Like we've become accustomed to seeing Michigan beating Ohio State. Right? Like last year's team, I don't think anyone's going to argue was a much worse team than this year's. And yet, like they're 6-2. They should be 9-2. Maybe that's part of it. But like, I think there will be more excitement coming out of the bye week going to Wrigley Field for the Northwestern game. And certainly for, probably, I mean, it's hard to tell if Northwestern or Maryland's the best team remaining on the schedule, but both are actually decent. I know some would argue that they're not, but I mean, decent enough, that kind of middle tier Big Ten team, right? Maryland's 4-3, I believe. And, 4-3 and Northwestern's 5-3. So, 3 loss teams. I mean, I didn't expect Northwestern to be on the verge of, making a bowl game. I don't think I had them making a bowl game in the preseason. And yet there they are. Maryland, I thought would probably make a bowl game, but, I thought it, and it still is going to, be a struggle for the Terps. But nonetheless, Purdue is a team that none of us thought were going to make a bowl game. We all knew they were going to be bad. Now, they've been a little bit more competitive in some of the recent games than I thought they'd be. But generally, this is not a team that anyone's losing sleep over, except for maybe the coaching staff and the players, because that's what they do. But outside of that, like, this doesn't really feel like the type of game that, that deserves a mixture of night game, big game blues, right? Like, none of these things are things that anyone would expect, right? They are wearing the big game blues tomorrow, if you didn't know already, which is kind of weird. Because, like, to me, this is like, not only wear your traditional uniforms, but make them less special. No offense to Purdue, but they're not a good team. And we talked a kind of a preview of what Michigan needs to do going into that game on Wednesday. But I just have a hard time really understanding like kind of what we get out of this. But it's in some ways outside of the fact that Michigan had lost to Michigan State in 2021. This time they won, but a lot of people kind of treated it like they lost. This doesn't feel like the type of game where people are, like, okay, just get out of there with a win type of thing. So it's kind of bizarre in some ways because this game has kind of similar implications. It's important for them. They absolutely need to win this game. I mean, I think obviously everyone thinks that they will, and it's a pretty strong certainty. I think it's a 21 point game according to FanDuel. 21 points in favor of Michigan. So It doesn't feel like the type of game that Michigan's really in danger of losing. And yet, it's crucially important. And 2021, why I brought that up, I brought it up earlier this week, is, it kind of a similar year in some ways, except for Michigan's got 2 losses this year compared to the 1 loss that year. So, I don't know. Right? Like there's a lot that has to, still happen between now and Ohio State. This is the next step, the first step to get there. And we'll just have to see how it goes. But it's a hard one to get hyped up for. It's kind of where I'm at with that. So we're going to keep segment 1 short and sweet. Let's get into Purdue a little bit. Let's go through and talk a little bit about what the Boilermakers present. And we'll do that here in just a moment. But before we do, this episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. To those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is pick a Justice Haynes running play against Michigan State. He was absolutely phenomenal. Whether it was a touchdown run, it was the 2 runs to start out the third quarter, of which I didn't see because I was still coming out of the photo room. But nonetheless, Justice Haynes, he really was the difference maker in that game on the offensive side of the ball. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. The one thing about a new camera, I've got a little blinking light, and I don't know why it's blinking at me. Does it mean my memory's full? Because I forgot to delete the previous podcast from the card. It's possible. I have no idea why it's blinking at me. All I know is the camera might die any moment, and we've just got to not start this over, but take a pause and resume. You're coming along with me on the adventure. That's where we're at. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully we can get through at least another 15-ish minutes. Listen, this isn't going to be a 30-minute episode. We're talking about Michigan Purdue. We're not talking about the fun version, 2022. Even then, the Big Ten championship game, no one was really writing home about that, right? So, okay. All right, Purdue. They've won 2 games so far this year, and they were their first 2 games. 31-0 against Ball State. That's impressive. That's good. 34-17 against FCS Southern Illinois. That's not so good. Now, they are a competitive team, and they are good offensively. Now, their offensive stats are 77th or something like that in the country. It's not from total offense that they're blowing the barn doors off of anyone. But they hosted USC, and they lost by basically the same margin to USC that Michigan did. Michigan lost what? It was 31-13, I think, something like that. They lost 33-17. So actually maybe a little bit better, but that game was at home for them. They lost to Notre Dame at Notre Dame. They put up 30 on Notre Dame, but lost 56-30. They put up 27 on Illinois, but lost 43-27. They were very competitive again in the last, not the last 3 games, but 2 of the last 3 games. At Minnesota, losing 27-20. Hosting Rutgers, they had the lead and lost on a walk-off field goal. But they had the lead for the majority of the game. They had a pretty substantial lead for the majority of the game. It was a bad situation for them. There's really no wins on the schedule left for them. They've got about the most brutal stretch coming up here. At Michigan, hosting Ohio State. At Washington, hosting Indiana. They're going to be 2-10, barring some kind of freak show here. Haven't really done a deep dive into them enough to know or understand what's up with Ryan Browne. I know he got injured in the last game. I don't really know his status at the moment, to be honest, because this is not the type of team. I know there's going to be people, isn't that your job? My job is just to write. It's not, and talk. It's not to necessarily give you every, because a game like this, it's no one's going to really read or listen to like a grand deep dive into what Purdue presents Michigan. Like overarching themes, yes, but like getting into this idea of like, oh, here's the problem areas. Like, no one cares. And like that's part of my job is to cater to more people than to fewer. But Ryan Browne has been a pretty good quarterback when he's had the opportunity. Not the greatest completion percentage. He's sub 60%, but he's got 1,700-ish yards. When it comes to passing, I mean, he's had a couple really bad games the last few games, but he started off like way up here, and then he's just kind of slowly falling down. Started off 70% against Ball State, and then after that, it's just kind of been a slow decline. 60.9, 61.5, 61.8. That was against Notre Dame, by the way. He went 21 of 34 against Notre Dame with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. But like you look at like the yards per attempt, they've just kind of slowly meandered down for the most part. 12, 7.4, 7.8, 7.46, 5.1. It's just like going down an escalator for him. He's had 3 300-yard games. One of them came against USC. The other one came against Illinois. The other one came against Ball State. I mean, obviously. So there's that. They've gotten a lot better at running the football lately. And yeah, the camera's not going to last. Now it's flashing very quickly at me. These record bigger files, by the way. I can usually go about 2 weeks without deleting any videos off the card. That's why this is all new. This is all new. You're coming along with me as I learn things. Devin Mockabee, you might know that name. He's been kind of their guy. He's been the one that's, he continues to be, but it's not like incredible. He's got 521 yards, but the second rushers, the next two are both of their quarterbacks, Ryan Browne and Malachi Singleton. 165 rushing yards for Ryan Browne, not as prolific as Malachi Singleton. So if it's Singleton, they're going to have to contend with a little bit more, right? So he's only got 266 yards passing. In the 7 games, 153 yards rushing, but he's getting more like 5 yards a carry. They've just generally been more competitive. I mean, lost 19-0 to Northwestern, but like I said, like they're getting incrementally more competitive. Barry Odom's obviously a good coach from Mizzou to UNLV to Purdue. There's a reason why Purdue hired him away from UNLV, right? Because like they were an incredible team last year. Not as much the year Michigan played him, but like it's one of those things. He turns teams around. He's like a turnaround artist, agent, type of guy. So it'll be interesting to see what they're, how they look more next year compared to this year. Now, I don't think they're going to come to Michigan scared, right? Like they gave Rutgers all they could handle, albeit at home. And, it's one of those things where you have that going for you, is that offense has fallen off. Right. But like it's still capable. Defense is mostly a debacle. There's only been, obviously starting off the season against Ball State and Southern Illinois, they've been very good defensively, holding them to under 300 yards, almost under 200 yards, Ball State. And then after that, weirdly, USC, they only gave up 460. I think that's about what Michigan gave up, and all of you wanted to, end the season right now. But then to Notre Dame, to Illinois, they gave up over 500 yards. To Rutgers, they gave up, that's the last game is where they gave up the most yards, 543 to Rutgers. They gave 359 passing yards and 184 rushing yards. They've given up 175 or more rushing yards in 4 games. So, and with those, by the way, like you look at Notre Dame, 254 rushing yards, 281 passing yards. Rutgers, 184 rushing yards, 359 passing yards. USC, 178 rushing yards, 282 passing yards. This should be the type of game where the Michigan defense can kind of get right. Michigan offense can kind of get right. Right? Like Bryce has passed the ball fine at home pretty much every game, right? Like, let's take a gander real quick. Okay. Apparently, I don't know how to do this. Here we go. Passing. It's a very distinct home away, with the exception of actually USC was his first time eclipsing 200 yards through the air on the road. But here's his home passing yards. 251, 235, 270, 230. The 230, weirdly, it's the low mark at home, but was probably his best game. At home, Bryce is passing for above 65% generally. He had one game below it, Central Michigan. But otherwise, that's 64%, but like 67%, 64%, 68%, and 78%. He's a completely different guy at home. And I know the opponents are different. They've had tougher road opponents, but like he absolutely should. This should be a type of game where he just goes off in every way, which, you know, and everything. But away, he's a different guy. Away, 142, 105, 207, 86. So a lot of the, like, here's the thing. There's going to be all the complaining that came out of, oh, they're not passing the ball. I almost guarantee you not going to be the case this week. And then 2 weeks from now at Northwestern, especially because of how their defense is, like, that's why I talked about on Wednesday. They need to find a way to be better in the passing game, you know, in those next two games after Purdue. But it's, hey, he's playing a heck of a lot better at home. And you might have a couple games after this where he doesn't look as good. But hey, if that holds, they still should win those games. And you'd rather he be really good for Ohio State. So I don't know. It's kind of odd. So what do I think is going to happen? Let's see if we can make it to the end. Let's talk about it more here in just a moment. But before we do, it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Michigan, Jimmy Rolder delivered in a big way, whether it was the fumble recovery, multiple sacks. I mean, he was just everywhere. Like, there wasn't one play that really defined his game against Michigan State. When the pressure was on, Rolder came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, bad against USC, great against Washington, and then Michigan State. This performance was not a fluke. Jimmy Rolder is on a streak. And just like Jimmy Rolder delivered for Michigan, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. We're going to continue on momentarily. But before we do, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even continue your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We are taking our chances with we're always having camera issues. I mean, before it was more that, like, I had a 30-minute recording limit on the Canon R6. Now we have an unlimited recording limit as long as, like, this card. Now I bought a new memory card. I just bought, like, the cheapest one that could handle this video. But I have another one. It's coming tomorrow before the game. So we're prepared, just not for today. So, Isaiah, why don't you just stop the video? And do it all, because it just creates all kinds of back end problems. We do things a lot more complicated than some of the other shows. We aren't just pulling up StreamYard and looking at our computer camera. Like, we've got a cinema camera here, and I'm doing everything manually to control everything. That's what the difference is. Is it better? Clearly not. You sacrifice a lot of consistency. I think it's the best way. And I tell you about it because, like, you know, again, I want you to feel like you're here with me in the room living through this. But what do I think is going to happen tomorrow against Purdue? I mean, I think the same thing that happens at home. I mean, I think Purdue's going to put up more points than people are comfortable with, and people will be like, not what's going on with the defense, but then again, I mean, the defense did so good against Washington. Let's take a look at something real quick, just to kind of, because I was about to say something and I feel like I have changed my mind on what I was thinking and going to say. So the lowest that Purdue's offense has put out, and again, they haven't played many good defenses. I mean, they played Northwestern. They got nothing in that game. And that game, they only got 305 yards. There's been a couple games where they haven't eclipsed 400. Rushing game has had some better moments recently. Against Minnesota and against Rutgers, they ran the ball for over 200 yards. But there were a lot where they didn't even get to 100. I think Michigan's going to run wall them. I think that they're going to struggle really to get much in any phase or facet of the game. I don't think that it will necessarily have like a season low 305, which is what they had against Northwestern. I think it'll be close to that though, where like they get like 200 yards through the air. I think they'll get some. They'll figure something out. Then again, Michigan's pass defense was so good this last week against MSU, and they only got 128 passing yards last week. So I guess it kind of depends. Is it Malachi Singleton or is it Ryan Browne? If it's Ryan Browne, I kind of feel like he's going to get some. But like, again, I'm not really sure on that status there. But I think Michigan will be okay defensively. I think it'll make people nervous a little bit because I think you're kind of more in that 2021 place, right? Where it's a bend, don't break rather than late stage Jesse Minter, where it was like good luck getting anything in the second half. Actually, that was the whole Jesse Minter experience. But like, you know, that became much more of a dominant type of look, whereas Mike McDonald was all about bend, don't break. And we kind of got back to just don't expect anything from anyone ever with Jesse Minter. And that's really not been what's happened with Wink Martindale. But he's had his moments, obviously, Ohio State and Alabama. I feel like, you know, you have certain games that kind of change your perspective, that skews your perspective, I should say. And I feel like those games are kind of that. So I think they'll get some there. And I think Bryce is going to be just fine. I think he'll pass for 250-ish yards. It sounds like we're probably not going to see quite a few players in this game. If there's a game where you can miss a Justice Haynes and a Jimmy Rolder and, you know, Rod Moore and whoever's out, like, and that actually in some ways bodes well for Michigan. Because now you're getting guys more ready. Like, if the more that you can get some guys in, especially with like, this isn't like 2016 or 2018 where you had a lot of instances where it was like, we're just, you know, we're gonna blow you out early, 2023 even, we're gonna blow you out early and then we're gonna get some other guys in. This has been like, guys have been in trials by fire because of injuries. And if it's a big if, they can get a lot of guys back for the Ohio State game, I mean, then you've got just a ton of guys that are ready and raring to go. That have the like actual game experience. They're not going to feel like they're thrown into the fire against the Buckeyes. And that's what you need against them. To come in waves with fresh legs and people that don't feel like the moment's too big. Because honestly, like, as much as we've spent a lot of time talking about, like, you know, you can't beat the Buckeyes against Michigan State. In a way you can. In a way you can beat Ohio State against Purdue by getting younger players in there that you're going to need for that game to be able to get real experience, because they understand it's going to be a much bigger challenge against Ohio State. Clearly, like we've seen that the onus put on Ohio State has been huge for Michigan, and it's worked. So we'll see if it continues. I have Michigan winning this one. Let's go 35-14, which would be the spread. 21. So we're going the spread. But I know people won't feel good if they give up 2 touchdowns, but that's where I'm at, 35-14. It's a push. Where I'm at. We're pushing. We made it. We made it. I don't know how, but we made it. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace. And learning on the fly, learning to execute, because it would be one thing to beat Ohio State in Ann Arbor, but it would be another thing to go beyond that and then beat Oregon or Indiana, say they were able to get to the Big Ten, right? But whether they're able to get to that playoff, win a game, or lose, to me, it's more preparation for Bryce Underwood, Andrew Marsh, Jordan Marshall, all of these guys. Now, we don't know what kind of turnover Michigan's going to have, whether it be transfer portal or, just guys going pro or whatever, right? Like, Justice Haynes is a guy that you could absolutely see moving on. But at the same time, like, they've just got such a good collection of talent that is starting to come in recruiting wise that is going to really help solidify the way a lot of this can and should go. Whether it's Savion Hyder, Carter Meadows. I mean, not all of these guys are play right away guys. Like Savion Hyder, I mean, if Justice Haynes comes back for a senior year, doesn't go pro, then you've got a room of, assuming everything holds, of Hyder, Marshall, Haynes. And that might put a little bit of a wrench in the idea of, he might be, the guy off the bench behind Jordan Marshall. Or who knows, right? Even better than that. But with this young talent that they have at the moment, the offensive line, where, you're going to lose Crippen and El Hadi, but now you're at least starting to play with some pieces here that say, okay, like if Brady Norton, who we've only really gotten to see for a game and a half, wasn't good, no offense to him, in the game and a half. But like, that's not to say he can't get better, right? Like players are allowed to improve. We've seen it time and time again. I think back to when I say my early Michigan fandom, I don't mean being a kid. I mean, taking the Wolverines over the Lions and paying attention to every little aspect of what Michigan is and does, right? Like there was times where it was like, oh, get this Stevie Brown guy out of here. And the next year you're like, oh man, he's really good. Get Jeremy Gallen out of here. And it's like, oh man, he's really good, right? Like that happened all the time, so guys can improve. They do improve, you get better at football by playing football. And that includes practice as well. So, like, you have so much young talent. You're bringing in more young talent. You've got guys that are, we've seen some Caden Strayhorn at center this year. Could he be could it be Jake Guarnera staying at right guard and Caden Strayhorn moving to center? Could it be that he moves to, or he ends up moving to center, Jake Guarnera, and then you have Brady Norton at right guard? And, who's going to be the left guard? There are options there for the future. Bryce Underwood year 2. That's huge, right? Like you normally expect guys to take a big leap from freshman to sophomore year. We are only seeing the surface scratched for Bryce Underwood. Defensively, it might be a little bit more costly because you are losing your the starting linebackers, although big things in Jimmy Rolder and Cole Sullivan that you're starting to see. Jimmy Rolder is I think he has another year of eligibility, I think, despite being like an 18th year guy. But right, like because of the medical. But I don't hold me to that. I'm just trying to do the math on the fly here in my head. But still, I mean, they've, Owusu, they're really high on. Chase Taylor, they're really high on. They got Troy Bowles, who's looked really good. Jaden Hood will be back from his injury. He's out for the season right now, if you didn't know. That's why we haven't seen him. Obviously, you lose Derek Moore, TJ Guy. They've got some retooling to do on the defensive side of the ball, but if there's a place where you feel like Michigan's going to be more likely to retool, it is on the defensive side. So you need that offensive side next year, though, still, to be the part that says we're going to potentially pick up any slack that the defense might leave behind for really the first time. Because generally you've expected the defense to pick up the offense any given year. Even in the better, the really good years. I mean, you just kind of knew in 2023 it was a complete team, but like 22, 23. But, 21, I mean, you kind of needed everything to work. But you still had the feeling with Mike McDonald taking over for Don Brown, like, okay, it's more of the, it's going to be more defensive and we'll see what happens offensively. Might be flipped a little bit next year, but it really starting to feel like this could be pretty, not to sound like Larry David, pretty good in the future. And whatever happens here late season, assuming they don't just fall apart starting this or 3 weeks from now when they come off of the bye, they should be in a really good position. So there is that. But anyway, outside of me wanting to do one thing, that's going to do it for us today. And that one thing is going to be we got to give a Jeremy Clarkson thing. And that's going to be taking off and going off the stop sign and going, the speed! Couldn't help myself. It's just not Richard Hammond and crashing anything. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.